Hey tea heads, this is Don from Mayleaf. We should all know that the date or picking season of a tea is crucial to determine its characteristics, its quality, and its price point. And for many teas, in fact, for most teas, there is one short window of the year where picking of that tea will make the tea at its finest. However, many teas are picked throughout the year, and so you get various different qualities and various different price points. And you will get certain times of the year, certain other small windows of the year where the tea naturally has a different characteristic to that peak window that is actually desirable, and some people are seeking out those teas. For example, first flush Darjeeling versus second flush Darjeeling, both fine quality Darjeelings with different characteristics. Also, raw pu'er in springtime versus raw pu'er picked in autumn time, both of which are considered very desirable and have different characteristics. However, with both of those teas, that peak window of a springtime usually commands the highest prices, and you will get a very big difference in price usually between, for example, springtime Shangpu'er versus autumn picked Shangpu'er, usually 50% drop in price, or maybe at least 30% drop in price. However, there is one tea type where the spring and autumn seasons are sort of equally desired and have a very similar price point, and that tea type is tieguanyin, specifically Qingxiang tieguanyin, or that green, bright, high aroma tieguanyin. And so what I have in front of me are two tieguanyins, two Qingxiang tieguanyins from the same producer. One is picked in autumn, and one is picked in spring. And I want to do this back-to-back tasting, which I've not actually done before. Obviously, I've tasted thousands of spring tieguanyins and thousands of autumn tieguanyins during my tea tasting journey, but I've never done a direct back-to-back of the same producer, spring and autumn of the same year. And so that's what I'm doing today. So let me talk about the teas that I have in front of me, and then we'll talk a little bit more about, the difference that season makes. So this is our new Superior Iron Goddess. This is an autumn tieguanyin picked on the 8th of October, 2023. And the cultivar is the Guan Yin cultivar. The origin is from Xianghua village in Anxi area of Fujian province in China. Elevation on this tea is about 1,250 meters. And what I did when I purchased this tea is I specifically asked the producer, do you have any of your spring harvest of the same tea still available for me to just get a sample so that I can do this video? So they sent me this. This is their spring 2023 from the same production, although obviously it's going to be slightly different bushes, but pretty much the same producer from the same area. So this is the spring version of this tea. Now, I have not tried this tea before. We did not purchase from this producer for our spring harvest last year. I'm speaking to you from January 2024 at the moment. And so I don't know what to expect from this, but I can at least do a back-to-back. Now, obviously, it is impossible for us to do a true direct comparison of autumn and spring because of the fact that there is, months in between. And therefore, this tea is now 8-9 months old. And you can actually see that in the color of the leaf, right? You can see that this leaf here is a lot greener. Let's see if I can bring that to this camera here. Than this one. So you can see that this is the fresher tea and this is slightly older. And with Qingxiang tieguanyins, is probably the tea type which changes the most in terms of color and flavor over time. And so yes, I'm never going to be able to do a direct autumn and spring comparison of the same tea for obvious reasons, unless I can time travel. So I'm going to heat up this kettle and we're going to get started on this back-to-back. Because as I said, tieguanyin, I think, is the only tea type that I know where the autumn tea actually commands pretty much the same price as the spring harvest, and for many people it is just as desirable, if not more desirable, than the spring. And it depends upon what you're looking for. So we're going to try to sort of tease out what those main differences are with our best attempts to do a direct comparison of autumn and spring from the same producer. So why is season important? Well, obviously the most important thing is going to be the weather. Temperature plays a huge part, as well as, you know, how much rainfall there is, the amount of sunlight, all of the factors that relate to season. And springtime teas are generally, for most teas, considered to be the top quality harvest of the year, because, you know, the tea has gone through a long dormancy over winter. It's had to sort of slow its growth. It's had to build up its nutrients. And so those first growths, those first flushes in springtime tend to have, you know, a lot more of the plant nutrition in it, right? It's growing for the first time after winter. It's had time to sort of soak up as much of the nutrients. The temperature is still cool in the early spring, and so it's going to grow slowly, which means that the leaves are going to be concentrated, full of flavor, because they're taking time to grow. And then usually as the temperature heats up and the plant has more sunlight, it can grow a bit more freely, it can grow a bit more quickly, and therefore the sort of concentration of flavor and aromatics tends to reduce during the summer harvest. Obviously, there are exceptions, but I'm not going to get into those right now. And then as autumn comes around, and when I'm saying autumn, I'm talking like 8th of October. So we're deep into autumn, I would say. It's not like, you know, the turn of the summer to the autumn. It's, you know, now starting to get quite cold. Temperature drops, the growth of the plant slows down. And so you start to build up more concentration in the tea, and therefore autumn teas can have a very desirable taste profile. And generally with autumn teas, and I'm not going to try to get too ahead of myself here, but generally with autumn teas, what happens is you get a different aromatic profile developing, tends to have, amazingly and bizarrely, a more wintry taste, a more snowy minerality, a more ionized air quality, you know, that freshness, and tends to be more aroma forward. We'll talk a little bit about my thoughts about why that may be. Not that I know for sure, but we will try to get into that. All right, I've got 200 ml Guan here. I'll leave that one to keep heating up, and I'm going to put the spring harvest in first, and we're going to have a smell of these dry leaves. So with Qingxiang tieguanyin, you want lots of aroma. This has lots of aroma. Qingxiang is high, bright aroma, very piercing, goes to the top of your nose, very bright and bracing. It's about 5:30 in the morning here, so a nice pick-me-up to start my day. I'm getting sorrel. So herbal, slightly acidic, slightly tangy, slightly sour, but verdant. Getting a little bit of mint, getting some face cream, getting some honeysuckle. So all the things that I would expect from a tieguanyin. A little bit of that classic vine-ripened tomatoes. So I'm smelling the stems, I'm smelling the green, I'm smelling that verdant, green growths of springtime. Okay, in goes the autumn harvest of this tieguanyin. Here we go. Extremely different. And of course, I know that, you know, if I had smelt this, you know, only a few months after it was picked, it would be, you know, different. But the aromatic shift is quite noticeable. Much more piercing. It's going right up my nose. It's quite incredible how, you know, how rising it is. I'm getting some coconut cream, salted coconut cream. If you've ever had those Malaysian desserts where they have like a coconut cream and usually some other like pandan jelly on top, take away that pandan jelly, that salted coconut cream. I'm getting fruits. I'm getting star fruit. I'm getting sponge cake. So I'm getting warm notes, like, so that sponge cake and the coconut cream. I'm getting more creamy notes, interestingly. I'm getting star fruit, so it's more fruity, but that fruit is clear, and when I say clear, it's like a watery fruit, like Asian pears and star fruit, those kind of tropical but more juicy, refreshing fruits, rather than the sort of very, very sweet like mangosteens and things like that. It's star fruits, and what was I saying? Star fruits and Asian pears. More going on. A little bit of yogurt, sour yogurt in there. You can see again the color difference of those leaves in there as well. Both have like a face cream floweriness to them. This one I would say in a way is a little bit more flowery. This one has got more fruits and some bit more creams. But the most important thing is how much higher up the nose it goes. I know that that sounds weird, but the aromas are right down here, whereas here they are noticeably higher. And it's that high, bright aroma that is a characteristic of autumn picked teas in general, but tieguanyin specifically. Little frog or big frog gets a nice mouthful of spring, and I'll do the autumn rinse here as well. Overflowing with tieguanyin. All right, here we go. Spring. Whoa. Oh, super elderflower heavy. Elderflower, so floral and fruity, but zingy. Yeah, it's just loads of elderflower. Rhubarb, so again, that sort of snapped, stemmy quality, but again, fruity and bright and slightly acidic. Some dill. Floral as well. Bright, sweet, creamy. Lotus flower. Delicious, really, really lovely. Here we go. Oh, again, intensity of the aroma is like one dial up, or maybe a few dials up. It's really, really intense and much higher up my nose, and very, very different. So I am still getting those starchy, creamy, warmer notes, which is actually surprising me. So I'm getting like buttered scones, raspberry jam. So yeah, more of the bready quality, buttery quality, and jammy. So raspberry jam. I'm getting that starfruit has converted to green papaya. So again, talking about tropical fruits, but more of those watery or refreshing tropical fruits, or underripe. So but underripe papaya, underripe guava. It's almost got like a winey quality to it. Sauvignon Blanc. New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, the sort of classic New Zealand Sauvignon Blancs that are sort of ubiquitous with that citrusy, forward minerality. Picking up more mineral in this. That's really something that I'm noting. Grapefruit granita, snowy, icy, but still citrus forward. Extremely different. Just two different teas. Completely. something else in there. Almond oil, dill, almond, elderflower, lotus, rhubarb, green papaya, buttered scones, raspberry jam, grapefruits, mineral. Mineral, you know what I'm imagining? And I'm going to say, even though a lot of people maybe go, oh no, I'm imagining oysters, or specifically like oyster shells. You know, so you've eaten the oyster and you've cleaned the oyster, you know, the oyster shell, just smelling that shell. So it's got nothing to do with fishy. It's not really anything got to do with sea so much, but there's that sort of pearly minerality that is in this tea. I also associate that a little bit with Sauvignon Blanc, like those Sauvignon Blancs can have that sort of oyster shell minerality. Oh, totally different, but stronger in aroma and higher. Now, again, last time I say it, I can't do a direct back-to-back. That might have had a more intense aroma, 8-9 months ago. Impossible for me to know. But they are extremely different. Okay, let's brew them up. And the color of the leaves, you can see, definitely different, although they both look great. Okay, pouring into direct, no gong dao base, so we're pouring direct into our longevity peach cups over here. Brewing at pretty much boiling point. I'm going to brew them together, but with about 10 seconds difference in between. Interested to know your thoughts on autumn versus spring-picked tieguanyin. As I said, from my recollection, tieguanyin, Qingxiang tieguanyin is the only tea where the tea price is pretty much the same for spring and autumn. For almost all other teas, if you compare direct batch from the same producer, there's going to be one season of the year where the tea is clearly more expensive than another. Tieguanyin, I think, is the only exception. As I said, you get amazing autumn shengpuers, amazing, autumn dansong teas like the snowflake tea from Dansong, incredible as well. But they will always generally be cheaper and generally sort of, less sought after. But tieguanyin is different. In fact, there's a tradition in China where, autumn tieguanyin is not only desired, but is, considered to be more prized. And they will intentionally sort of, consider it 2 seasons of the year where they'll buy the spring, they'll taste the spring, into autumn and through winter, and then during sort of the first part of the year, like I am now, January, they'll start to taste the autumn tea until the spring harvest. You can see here, difference in color is remarkable. And that's another thing that you'll notice with autumn tieguanyins, tend to be lighter, tend to be brighter, tend to be a little bit more or a lot more on the greener side, more that almost blue-green quality, but also clearer and lighter. Once again, can't do the direct back-to-back. I would love to have seen what this tea looked like when it was brewed in, let's say, sort of May, June. Okay, here we go. Wow, that elderflower is really coming through in the taste as well. Tons and tons of elderflower. So elderflower, I'm getting a little piquancy like pink peppercorns. I'm getting that sorrel, that dill. A little bit of the starchy, cakey note that I'm picking up in here is starting to come through here. I would associate it with those Taiwanese pineapple cakes. So little sort of biscuity cakes with pineapple jelly inside. So it's got that pineapple quality. It's lovely. It's fruity. It's yeah, I mean, pineapple, yeah, I would say pineapple and elderflower is the best combination that I can describe. And crucially, The aftertaste is persistent with like a gooseberry pineapple elderflower, all in the same territory, but a gooseberry quality to it. Let me have a few more sips of this because I want to understand the mouthfeel. Mouthfeel is a little bit drying, astringent, pulling, moving to, like I said, a gooseberry juiciness with a sense of sourness without a taste of it, but like a sort of sensation of sour pulling notes. So I'm getting that yin yun that is often talked about with tieguanyin, especially spring harvest tieguanyins. Aromatics are good, not particularly like straight up my nose, you know, with that retronasal olfaction. So once the tea is in your mouth and you breathe out through the nose, I'm getting an aroma, I'm getting a lot of aroma, but I'm not getting this like thwack of aroma that I would expect from this one. Let's see. As soon as it enters your mouth, you notice it rising up your nose. Incredible aromatic burst. And that is, the aromatic highness of it. So the phrase I think is, for tieguanyin is spring for taste, or spring water, autumn aroma, right? So the idea is that springtime is more for the mouth, for the taste. Autumn is for aroma. I think that's very simplistic because this has a lot of aroma and this has a lot of taste. But when you compare them back to back, you really notice it. Oh my gosh. Lots and lots of flowers. Freesia. I'm getting coconut still, coconut cream. So the coconut note persists. I am getting some elderflower. And that's not just because it's running over from this one. I'm getting elderflower, so that has followed through from batch to batch. So clearly, you know, this producer somehow produces more elderflower notes in his tea. So elderflower, freesia flowers, like bright, like smaller flowers. Coconut, I'm still picking up that Sauvignon, like white wine gums or white wine granita. I'm getting that snowy minerality on the mouth when I swallow. So the difference, well, I'll describe it later, but I'm getting snowy minerality on the mouth, and I'm getting that again, like oyster shell minerality. Tiny bit of that sort of sea air. Again, not about fishy, but about the minerals in that. So don't think that it's got anything to do with sort of seafoody quality. It's just the, well, you know, in the sense that it's got the minerality of the sea rather than the saltiness or the sort of fish quality of a sea. Just want to make that very, very clear. So it's more about that mineral. You could associate it with snow, that ionized air. Very, very clear. I'll brew them again, but extremely distinct differences. Totally different. Totally different. Incredibly different. Heat this water up. So let's talk about the sort of categories of difference. First of all, as we said, aroma, very different. Higher, brighter, stronger in this tea versus this tea. The actual sort of notes, different. I would say this one is more, I'm getting more of the vines, the dills, the green. I'm getting more, I don't mean green like cut grass. I mean green like herbaceous, dills, mints, sorrels. I am getting flowers, but they are, you know, elderflowers and lotus. But it's more about stems, right? This one, not about that at all. Even though the look of the leaves looks more green, I'm getting coconut creams. I'm getting the fruits, the green papayas, the guavas, the Asian pears. It's more in the fruity, and so more about after the growth, the produce, the fruits, right? And then more of that sort of, a little bit more of the creams and the warmth as well, interestingly. But then the mouthfeel and the finish, that is one of the key differences. This one here, spring, has a thicker texture than the autumn. So I'm getting more mouthfeel from the spring. And the aftertaste of the spring is more persistent, it's longer, it's stronger in terms of aftertaste of that elderflower note. Whereas the autumn tea is, I would say, if the spring is medium thickness, then the autumn is like medium light. So it's not a huge difference, but it's noticeable, it's lighter. And the aftertaste is cleaner, so it's shorter in terms of aftertaste, but more minerality and more of that snowy, fruity freshness in the mouth. Okay, let me taste them again. Really good tea. You can see the color difference here. Flavor profile is pretty much the same, so I'm not going to talk about it again. Texture, as I said, medium, and then you're getting the pulling astringency, dryness, and a long elderflower finish. I would say the one criticism that I'd have of it is it's not like hitting me with like a huge amount of flavor. Okay, it is very flavorful, but I'm missing that rising, aromatic aromatic companion to what's happening in the mouth. So this is all about the mouth, and yes, it's going up my nose, and there's aromatics, but it's sort of like more in the mouth than up the nose. And this is just incredibly aromatic. So much aroma going through. Again, not changed so much. I'm not going to talk about the notes, but the difference is autumn more up here, spring more down here. So lower nose, mouth versus higher nose and mouth, but less in the mouth, less astringency, less dryness, less thickness, like a shorter, cleaner aftertaste, but intense, fresh minerality in the mouth and a very, very high, bright aroma. Why is this the case? I mean, it's just remarkable, isn't it? How the same plant, same producer can produce two wildly different teas depending on the season. Now, I can imagine a plant over its winter period, it's cold, it's surviving, and it's building up that nutrition. And springtime, it's all about we need to grow, we need to get bigger, we need to survive. And so my guess is that the inner leaf material is going to be different in terms of its chemical compounds. So that it's going to be more about the stems, the growth, the vegetal quality of a tea. Then it goes through like a nice, easy summer where it's growing, and it's like, it's growing freely and easily. And then the winter sets in, and it's had a whole summer of growing freely and easily, and it's got different surrounding vegetation, and plants are fruiting, and it's just a different time of year, and the priorities of the plant are different. And it gets cooler, and so, but it's still not, and so it slows down the growth, and therefore you're getting more concentration of flavor, and which is very important for tea. Slower growth usually means better tea, but it's not got that sort of survival growth on its collective mind, and therefore it's more about the aromatics. It can represent more, the shift tends to be more about the aromatics of the plant rather than specifically that sort of vegetal growth, and also somehow that winter air somehow filters in to the minerality and the taste. Now, it's complete imagination on my part, but that's how I sort of visualize the difference between spring and autumn tea, not just for tieguanyin, but also for shangpua and for other teas like dansong. But the key takeaways are that this is more about the mouth. This is more about the aroma. This has great aroma. This has great taste and mouthfeel, but priorities are different, which is my preference. I think genuinely that for tieguanyins, I see them as two different teas that should be sourced differently, which is why we tend to source, in recent years, we've tended to source a spring tieguanyin, and then we've reserved time to source an autumn tieguanyin, because I see them as different variations of the same tea that should both be enjoyed. So I don't really have a preference. If you ask me right now which one I would like to drink more of, I'd probably go with the autumn, simply on the basis that it is just so impactful. And when most people think about tieguanyin, and most people sort of first thought of Qingxiang tieguanyin, they think about those bright, high, piercing, floral, fruity aromas. That tends to be the thing that a lot of people think of, and therefore, I would say autumn would be a really good place for you to go to really experience that. But both are incredible, and just another example of the wonders of nature and how a tea can transform, how the season and all of the different aspects of terroir can transform its characteristics. I'm not going to go through lots of infusions of this, but because I'm pretty certain that is the key difference. Those are the key differences. They will obviously shift over infusions, and I'm sure more of the inner leaf material is going to come out of this, and I'm going to get a longer aftertaste. But those are your takeaways between the difference between spring and autumn tieguanyin. That's it, tea heads. Check out our other videos, taste our teas wherever you're in the world by browsing mayleaf.com, and come visit us if you're ever in London. And that, I'm Don from Mayleaf. Thank you for being a part of the revelation of true tea. Stay away from those tea bags. Keep drinking the supreme stuff and spread the word, because nobody deserves bad tea. Bye.